So I'm here with Sheila Carter, who's the filmmaker behind Before Anything You Say, and Ozzy Rawi. Hopefully I've got that name correct.
You did.
And he's the cinematographer on the film, so congratulations, thank you for joining us in Milan.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you both.
Nice to meet you.
And very well done with the film. So if one of you could, just seems an obvious question, give us a brief synopsis of the film.
It's about a couple who they have an incident come up in their life that changes everything, and they have to deal with what comes up when he gets a chance to move away from their life where they're living. And
yeah, and that's and because I think the role that the job he's got is quite it's interesting. How did you come about choosing that job to be part of the arc of the story? Because that was quite interesting. Sorry, we should explain what that job is meant to be.
Yes, he's in terms of the trafficking of children.
Yeah,
he's someone who is an expert in that field. And so he's been selected to go to the Far East, to Middle of Asia, and help with the policing, finding, recovery, and they're coming from Winnipeg, which is my home, and they've arrived in Paris, and all of this is a big surprise to the wife, and she's caught off guard and she's upset. And as the story unwinds, we find out more and more why, even though it's the great opportunity of a lifetime for him, why perhaps it leaves a question to his own personal life and the things that he hasn't dealt with.
Yeah, that's right. Without giving too much away, the timing kind of couldn't be worse, I suppose, is one way to describe it, even though it's a very laudable job that he's going to take on, but it's very powerful. I mean, we've spoken about some. It's very powerful performances, particularly by the two leads. And how did Ozzy come into? How did you know him, and how did all this happen?
It happened because I had worked with Sheila before on a short film.
Right.
And so we kind of knew each other. And so she contacted me, telling me that she had this project that she wanted to go, and there was a financing issue at the time. So we stayed in communication until she found a way of putting it together, so long as I was amenable to the conditions. And frankly, I thought I'll do anything to help her, with her vision.
Yeah.
So
it does look wonderful.
So we made it work somehow.
We made it work.
The colours, the richness of it, it's beautiful, isn't it? It looks really lovely. So without sort of patronising you here, you've seen the transition, of course, from 35mm to digital, because this was shot digitally, wasn't it? So I don't know if you can be brief about this, but if you, it's more for the benefit of people that will watch this. Can you explain in a succinct way what the difference is? I mean, I know the difference. One is celluloid, one is digital, but...
Well, you know the difference.
Yeah, I know, but the transition and how difficult was it? And have we reached a point where it is as good as, or we nowhere near that point of 35mm film?
Well, as good as is difficult to answer, because what is good? Frankly, the digital medium as it exists today, and God knows what it'll be like next month, is superior in quality to what film used to give us. I once, at a meeting of cameramen, we were just, there were differing opinions. Even to this day, there are the die-hard film people who talk about film as the Holy Grail, and anything else is a poor imitation. And I said, okay, what if digital existed 100 years ago, 90 years ago, and then somebody came along and said, look, I've got this magnificent stuff. It really is far superior to what you guys are
I can
using.
see where this is leading,
And we call it film, and this is the way it works. You load it in the dark, put it in a magazine, and then you thread it through a camera, and you shoot, and you get amazing results, far better than what you're getting right now. And then say, and where do we see it? Where's oh no, you send it to a lab. A lab? Yeah, where they process it, and then it's developed, and then you print it. The next day, you get to see it projected on a screen, like you're projecting your digital material right now. You mean we have to wait till the next day?
Yeah.
And, you know, he'll be laughed out of the meeting. And we'll say, well, you know, anything this film is you're demonstrating, we can create that digitally. Why would we want to switch to film? But because we've been used to film for all these years, and something new comes along, you get resistance. I'm sure the telephone got resistance.
Oh, of course it did, yeah. Can you tell, when you look at what I would call in inverted commas a good digital, it's like a red or something like that, I guess, against 35mm stock, can you even now still tell the difference between the two?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If the digital image is as bad as film.
As bad as film?
Well, I'm just using
because
you said that's good.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
You know,
and are you still asked to shoot on film? Is that pretty much gone?
Oh, I love film.
Are you still asked to shoot on it, or is that pretty much gone?
Not in the last 3 years, but 3 years ago, yes. And I'd grabbed the opportunity to shoot on film, but it is different.
We did the one at the CFC.
Yeah, you're short. That was
35.
35mm.
Yeah, that was film. 35.
Yeah.
I'd shoot 16 film because that has a particular look because of the grain.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely. It is just a different medium. You know, we choose lenses for a job, and we choose film stock for a job. I mean, today's digital camera is the sensor on the digital camera is yesterday's film. It's the film stock. No two different makes of digital cameras will give you the same image. So what does that mean? It means that each camera is a different type of film stock.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, how interesting.
So when we used to shoot film,
Didn't
we used to carry more than one type of film stock? You know, we had a 250 ASA film. For daylight, we had 200 ASA or 500 ASA balanced for tungsten. And we changed film stocks according to what the DP, or sometimes with the director's input, wanted the image to look like. Leaving aside you needing a more sensitive film because of low light conditions, the grain was different. Between Fuji and Kodak film stock, between the T grain of Kodak and the non-T grain, they all had a different look. And it was left to the cameraman to choose that. Now you have production managers trying to tell you you've got to use a red, or you've got to use the Alexa, or we've budgeted for a Panasonic Vericam 35 because they're giving us a great deal.
Yeah. So do you own your own camera? But it's interesting to know, or do you hire them? How does that work?
I used to own quite a few 35mm cameras. I've got rid of all but three of one type,
right?
Because I love them. They're the Eclair Camiflex CM3.
That doesn't mean anything to me, but I bet they're very
Doesn't
good.
mean anything to you?
Not really, no.
Okay.
But I bet they're stunning cameras.
What did you shoot in that?
Yeah.
What did I shoot in that?
Yeah, what film?
I used it on Black Windmill. I used it on Pulp. Used it on Gold.
Okay. That's the one with Stallone? Gold? No.
No, Gold was a few years ago. It was with Susanna York. And,
Susanna York, yes.
Susanna York.
Yes.
And Roger Moore.
Roger Moore.
And Ray Milland.
Ray Milland.
Oh,
Ray Milland
yes.
when he was around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, all three of them have passed away. Susanna York, I think, was a few years ago with cancer, I think, wasn't it?
But it's a good friend of his.
Anyway, it's a French camera made by Eclair, designed in 1943, produced actually, mass-produced in 1943. So it wasn't a wartime camera, although the British Armed Forces got to use it between 43 and the end of the war.
Right.
It's a modular camera. It came with suddenly becoming a camera discussion.
No, this often happens. Sorry, apologies.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
The magazines were 100-foot mag, 200-foot, 400-foot, and 1,000-foot.
Oh,
same camera. The body is sort of like this. The body looked like a gas mask. In fact, it used to be called the gas mask. And it was 16 and 35. One model was dual gauge, and other models were just 35mm. Open gate, that's full silent gate, or the Academy gate with where the soundtrack is on one side. So you could change the gate. the mags from 100-foot mag. 100-foot mag and the camera body was about this big.
Yeah.
In fact, on Gold, we had it attached in front of the pilot of a Cessna. You know, there's hardly any room between the...
Well, I flew in a Cessna last month, so I know how small
there
they
you go. So you know what the front looks like.
Yeah.
We had it there looking back at the pilot. You couldn't do that with an Arri or any other little camera in those days, but the Cam-A can. You can change the motors from regular crystal motor to a pulse-controlled motor made by Perfect Tone, to a wind-up motor, so that you can go with it down the coal mines without fear of a spark, and a hand crank with a gear, 1 turn 1 frame or 1 turn 8 frames. So you could hand crank it, knowing that if you did it three turns per second, you were doing 24 frames.
Brilliant.
Or you wanted 1 frame at a time.
Yeah.
And you can change the motors while the camera is on a head, on a geared head or a fluid head. You don't have to take the camera apart.
You just unclip and
clip on.
Fantastic.
I could go on about.
Oh no, it's my. I do this all the time on Golf Piece, so I should apologise. So
no, it's good.
So the story, how did that kind of? I think we've talked about this before. But again, for the benefit of viewers, how did that all happen?
Before anything you say.
Yeah.
Well, it seems in my life as a filmmaker, a lot comes from personal experience. And
write what you know, you see.
There you go. And so in my own life with my husband, he got this incredible opportunity, but the way it was first presented to me was with sort of not taking into account my life. Not on purpose, just the excitement of being offered this incredible job when we were about to move into a new home that came to him for a 5-year contract, and everyone was saying to me, "Oh, wonderful, Sheila, you're going to go off and live, in the Far East with your husband." And I was like, "No, wait a minute, I have my own career." And so that was the spark of me thinking about areas that I'm really interested in, which are love and relationships, and when one doesn't listen. And so a friend of mine who wrote it, we'd just seen the male actor Darcy in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf,
right?
Which is a very literary piece, right? And we started to talk about in our own lives the cost of not listening, and so we brainstormed a bit, and so she took it into a fictional place where these two characters have in their marriage unresolved issues that this move will kick off, and which is for him about the fact he's never really understood his own son, and she had a child out of wedlock that she gave away, and so it's a huge thing, I think, to start looking at things that you never took responsibility for. And
there's a couple of things that really stood out for me.
Yeah.
One was the where you were filming the actors and not necessarily the two leads, which I'll sort of lead on to, and there was kind of, you couldn't hear what they were saying, or they were saying things on telephones, and
right.
And it was not even drowned out. You wasn't, and that was quite interesting. I liked that. It added a dynamic to it. Because of course I wanted to know what was it, but that was sort of deliberately. I don't know. There was a sequence of guys on a phone and stuff like this, and you don't quite, you can't hear what he's saying.
Yeah.
And also the two leads. I was talking to a filmmaker earlier, actually, the guy that made Uma, and asking him where he got the leads from, and I said because they look like a real couple, brilliantly, and that's the. That's what I was going to say about your film. They look, for all intents, so it's all very well casting people. How did you get them to be the people? Because they're great. They are great. But the chemistry is really palpable.
Yeah, and they're known in our community. Both Kristen and Darcy had been in my first feature, Passion Flower. Totally different kind of couple. In that case, she's struggling with mental illness, and he's the good husband. In this case, both of them had to go to deeper places again, particularly for Darcy. his fear of what was at stake and where he had to go was the very thing that we see the camera caught.
Mm.
And so it's interesting with actors, you know, some are willing to work that deeply, and then they suddenly they're there, and you see, oh my God, I committed to this. Oh my God, what did I commit to? And you have to start to handle, as a director, the resistance.
Because it is intense, which I mean, it is very intense.
It's very intense, and yet the two of them actually, they have an interesting dynamic. They're good friends. You know, not married to each other, but somehow in our city of Winnipeg, they've become the couple that whatever they take on, there's a connection.
Yeah, well, sure, they're not actually a couple, but watching it, you'd think they were a couple.
Yeah, you'd think.
It's
and
really
they just
good.
have that magic together. And I have a different shorthand with her than I have with him. I would probably say that, you always learn something when you're directing.
But I think you said, sorry to go back earlier, he'd been in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, did you say?
Right. And
which is a very intense play film as well, isn't it?
But he's a more, I would always say that character, George, is as mean as they get. He seems to be the more sympathetic one.
Right.
And in this case, Darcy is not necessarily the most sympathetic, and yet in the dialogue after the film, some people can't stand her, are totally on his side.
That's interesting.
And others are totally on his side, and she's being impossible. In fact, when we at the post house, they'd start arguing about it.
Isn't that funny? Because I felt the opposite. Sorry, I'll go back from that. I actually felt quite neutral about both of them in terms of I could see the point, both of their points, you know. Sorry, so I didn't feel that.
I think it depends on what kind of experience each individual has had in their private life.
Yeah.
That you can relate to. That's what I went through, or therefore I hate her, or that's what I went through, I hate him. He's like one I dislike. So I think it depends on your own experience as an audience.
And certainly at times when it's been screened, I've had people say, oh my God, that's like, I can't talk to you right now, that's like my ex-marriage, or other ones that I really want to talk to you because why are you, the intensity of it.
I think it was a very good window into relationships in terms of, I can see, not necessarily but I know of relationships that it reminded me of that actually, because you can see how they didn't come to blows, but so there's the sequence, I think it's towards the end where they're fighting by the door, and she grabs him and then he spins and pushes her, doesn't he? And he holds her almost like, I can't remember if she holds him by the throat or he holds, I can't remember, he spins her around, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And it was actually felt quite real. I mean, it seemed very, very real actually, and it was very physical,
Yeah, and then, in the editing process, I'm working with this wonderful editor that I love, and we had started to think about the tension that was happening, and that's how we went to the jump cut to kind of start to build with him and his memory of what the hell's going on here, right? Which are part of those sequences that are happening in between, which are either foreshadowing or memory in their minds of behavior, or illuminating something of the premise theme of the film, right?
Go on, carry on.
And that's the fact that Paris will never be the magic that is Paris, the romance that's supposed to be Paris.
And lovely shots again. There's, I think we framed, I'm sure it's more than once, thinking back in it, when they're looking out into, and you can see the Eiffel Tower in the distance, and it's framed really well, and it looks lovely. But of course, it's all
that was done in post.
That was done in post. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's a collage in post.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Incredible. Thank God you've got a decent cinematographer.
No.
We
never even got to Paris.
We tried. We didn't get the grant. Well, I found on the internet things that you can buy.
See, who knew? I would never guess that.
And
well,
then
I'm glad you saw it that way.
Yes, because he was worried.
Wow. Yeah. So it totally fooled me.
Well, at the first couple of passes, I was being, because I wasn't in the same city, so I was getting emails with the attachments of where the montage is going, and I'm putting my
He's great.
2 cents in, we'll do this, and introduce a bit of atmosphere there that looks too crisp, and fog that one up, and eventually it arrived at what you see today.
Yeah, it fooled me. I didn't honestly had no idea.
Thank you.
That's good. That's great. So with this film, and I don't know, the last, sorry, go on, I interrupted.
No, I was going to say that in terms of the premise of the film about Paris, and that her thing, this is in Paris, it really is then symbolic about that it will never be that place of magic or romance.
Yeah, never be, no.
That symbol of that is...
She reminds me of Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, she's like that.
She's the look of her, yeah. I mean, she's a very attractive woman.
Yeah.
But that's what she reminds me of, Jessica Chastain, the hair and everything. But it isn't just those two. I mean, there's a great performance throughout, but obviously those two stand out. So when you're brought in to do a new project, whether it's this one or any of the last 5 or 10 films, do you have the same order of doing things? So, for instance, as an example, would you find out what the story is? You're being employed to shoot the film. Do you then, I assume, go to meetings, have storyboard? How does it all work in terms of how you're going to shoot do you work to the same principle for each film? I guess is what I'm asking badly.
Do I?
Yeah.
It depends on the director. I've yet to work with a director who would start with a storyboard and carry on with it.
Oh, what works away from it as they go on? Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. I haven't worked with a director who religiously will follow the storyboard. So I'm waiting, when this is going, okay, we'll do this, do we do that? Let's see if we can do a little better. I think we can. How about if we do that? and then we drift away from the storyboard. Until the next scene, and then the next scene storyboard comes up again, and then we either do that or, more usually the case, we drift away from it. Because, when you're trying to block a scene after rehearsal, or when you're watching the rehearsal and you think you already decided where you're going to do the establishing shot or any other shot, or maybe no establishing shot, just start straight into the scene, starting with a close-up and then pull back, you start thinking, well, no, the way they're rehearsing, the way they're playing it now doesn't lend itself to the way we discuss it without actors. And what they're doing now calls for another, more interesting way to shoot it. So then I will discuss it and offer ideas to the director, who may accept it or may have other reasons to ask for it to be blocked in a different way.
And have you ever had, without naming the film or names, have you ever had a film that you've worked on or a project and it was a total nightmare? Or they've all been pretty smooth? I'm sure they haven't all been totally...
Yeah, have you sorry that I answered the phone?
Yeah, kind of. You've got home for, oh my God, I really wish I'd have done that.
No, truthfully, no, I haven't. I've had great experiences and not so great experiences, but frankly, every experience is a lesson. You learn from the good ones, but you also learn probably more from the bad ones.
Oh.
You learn what not to do next time.
Because I can imagine you rocking up with like 5 or 6 boxes that big. I'm sure I'm wrong. I know cameras have shrunk, and we talked a moment ago about digital, but even so, I can imagine you're getting on set. This is me being naive, and you've got 2 or 3, 4, 5 of these trunks with you. I'm sure it isn't like that. But what do you bring with you? I mean, do you have a set amount of equipment that you always take?
What do I bring?
Yeah.
Equipment-wise?
Yeah. Is it always the same or not?
No, it's not always the same. It's horses for courses.
Right.
But the smaller stuff, like every meter under the sun, I will carry, just in case I need to measure even, the frequency, electrical frequencies. The days of HMI, when something goes a bit odd with HMI lights. Luckily now with digital, one of the plus things of digital shooting, if there's a some fluttering going on, any flicker going on, you don't have to figure it out mathematically, which is when you're shooting with film. You don't see the flicker until it rushes.
Does it kind of compensate?
Because it shows you straight away. No, but then I can deal with it straight away.
Right.
But I may need to measure the actual frequency that's reaching the light source. Well, I carry meters to measure that.
See, it literally sounds like a science to me.
Oh.
It's mini science. Science with a small s.
And if you had the chance, if you were starting out fresh now, as a youngster, I don't know, 20, 25-year-old, or a better question to ask is if you, perhaps this happened to you, a relation said, who was very young, said, I want to get into cinematography, would you encourage it, or has it changed so much? Is it still a great industry to be in?
It's a fantastic business to be in. I think it's, if you're passionate about, you're talking about cinematography, right? Yeah. If you're passionate about photography, it's terrific. There's nothing like it. I don't feel I've worked a day in my life since I became a cinematographer.
Brilliant.
It's just a joy. I just look forward to being on a set and getting on with lighting it and composing it, choosing the lens, shooting it, designing a move, etc. And the best thing is when things go wrong. Because let's face it, filmmaking is a compromise with the best will in the world and all the planning in the world. Yeah. You arrive on the set and you wanted the sun and it's raining. You wanted rain and it's a beautiful blue sky. Or you get on the set and something is leaking, or there's a construction site outside that didn't exist before.
Right.
Oh God. Sure, has that really happened? Something like
that?
It happens a lot. It happened recently.
On mine, yeah.
Very recently. Yeah. It happened on her last film.
Yeah.
So will you two be working on? Have you got a project that's?
Oh, I have another project I want him on. Absolutely. Yeah.
But we just finished a project together since the one.
Yes.
Since before anything.
Can you talk about this or not?
Sure. Okay. A little bit. Absolutely. So this is we just finished. Basically about 3 weeks ago now, is it?
Yeah. Approaching 4 weeks ago.
That we wrapped. Mm-hmm. And called Into Invisible Light. And it's about what would you do if you got a second chance in life. Early based on two characters from Chekhov's Vanya.
Right.
Helena and Astroff. And but now in a contemporary day. And kind of an underlying theme of what it means to be an artist. And so I was just talking to Ozzy about it this morning at breakfast, just realizing once again that now the film and the edit is going to tell me what it is. Because though I was thinking that this one fabulous shot that I love, that the script is the end of the film, a dance piece, very much a homage to me, to the dancer's work, Pina Bausch, very in a modern place, a wonderful young dancer, may not be the end of the film.
And where is this one set?
It is in Winnipeg.
It is, yeah.
But a modern urban city, not identified.
Yeah, it's kind of a North American city.
A North American city.
And before anything you say, and it's just something you said earlier, which I kind of latched onto about the whole Paris theme.
Yes.
That could have been London, it could have been Budapest, it could have been San Francisco, it could have been Winnipeg, frankly. Because let's be honest about it, I'm sure these places all have I'm sure Winnipeg has wonderful vistas and buildings. But what was the particular reason you decided from the off to have that as part of the setting?
You mean this film?
No, or before anything you say.
Well, partly in that term. I mean, the dream was to get the grant to take us to Paris, right?
Oh, right, okay.
Right, okay. So then you kind of, you do your Indiegogo and your credit cards and ask for favors.
That's the way she made the film.
I made the film.
With a credit card and Indiegogo raising funds as much as she could.
As I could.
Oh,
and the Manitoba tax credit.
Right.
To a certain extent.
To a little extent, yeah.
They helped you in post a little bit, maybe? Music or anything like that?
No.
No?
Not really. Maybe the GST.
Right.
Or
okay.
HST from City of Feather.
Small percentages. And favors.
And favors.
Now that's...
And we shot it in, should we tell?
Yes, but it's up to you to say it. I'm not going to boast, you say it. So, it was shot in 6 days.
6 days we shot that feature.
Really? Yeah. And it's about 80 minutes, isn't it?
60.
60 minutes,
yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
It was longer, she actually shortened it.
I shortened it.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, it is, yeah, it is.
Yeah, Brad Blaine would be proud of me because we've talked about...
The chop. Yeah.
Don't, go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and put the audience to sleep.
Yeah, she shortened the length from what she actually had to begin with.
Yeah.
And it was. We had a 1 day extra. We had a 7th day contingency, which we didn't need to use.
Didn't use.
Yeah. And with the funding, I mean, it's brilliant that you've done it in that time because I would never have guessed. Honestly, it was that short period of time. You could be led by tax breaks in terms of, I just think of someone like Louisiana offering an amazing tax breaks.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I assume you can't really be led by that, can you? Because some filmmakers would be, wouldn't they? They would go to where they could shoot for the least.
Well,
I assume.
Well, it's the producers who tell you,
yeah.
I'll back, I'll raise money for your film, but you're going to have to shoot it in
Louisiana. Winnipeg, yeah.
I mean, we still in Manitoba, we have a brilliant CEO in charge of the Manitoba Film and Music. She is continually letting the government know, which is a conservative government, which would love to get rid of all of it, that we are doing, $1 billion business, because the Americans come up, because there's such a great deal with the dollar, and we don't have, frankly, we need to have stronger crews to handle. Because then when it goes down for a while and they all migrate, it's very nomadic, right? They're going to go live in Toronto or Vancouver, where they feel it's,
because
of the more attractive tax breaks?
It's a bigger production center.
Oh,
what happens is as soon as they get busy in their small hometown, they think, well, we're good enough now to go to the bigger production center. We'll get work every day instead of once every 3 months.
And it does play part. I'm sorry, it does play part. I mean, I don't think of the Star Wars films. I know the prequels were shot on Australia tax breaks, and of course they've encouraged Disney to shoot in the UK because the UK have given them amazing tax breaks in order to bring the
it's a very attractive tax break.
Of course it is, yeah.
They even apply I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the actors pay as a
so if they're UK based, so if they're UK actors or all the actors?
All the actors.
Right.
All the actors.
Even those actors who are not getting paid in that country, in the UK. But their money applies to UK spend.
Yeah. Because I think, doesn't an X amount of the crew have to be British in order to get the break? I don't know what the percentage is, something, isn't it?
Yeah, you are right.
That's pretty standard, I think, in all of the...
Is it? Is that what you want?
So that works. In Manitoba, and I think that's probably one problem in Manitoba, they have to be not just necessarily Canadian, but they have to be Manitoba residents.
Right. That could be
only
painful.
then does the tax credit apply. So if he's a Canadian but he resides in Vancouver or Montreal or Toronto,
that's going to be painful.
He doesn't get as big the production doesn't get as big a tax credit, as if they hired a Manitoba resident. That reduces the advantage somewhat because there aren't that many Manitoba competent crew members. There are some. But you can only crew up one picture at a time. You get 2 films or lately 4 films going at the same time, you're scraping the barrel. So you get some inexperienced people who give the town a bad name. So the producer doesn't want to come back there again because they've had a bad experience with local crew. Well, unfortunately, they use the inexperienced local crew who are only being used because there's nobody else left.
Right.
Yeah, because they've run out doing other things.
But
because they're working with the
as it would have been hired,
first serve.
Right. Yeah. And then if you're like recently when we were filming, we were up against Netflix was there.
Actually filming.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But they have the bank account. So they were able to fly in people. To hell with the tax credit.
They had to fly in people.
And they had to fly in people because after they ran out of the ones that are very junior or just learning, they had to just bring in other people.
Yeah. So the tax credit advantage for Netflix didn't exist anymore. But they had to get the job done.
And they had no other choice, of course.
They had no choice but to bring a lot of people in. Yeah. And in fact, at one point, one of the people who were working on the project, he said it's about 70% import.
Right.
Yeah. So
they lost out, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, so.
And when will the new project be?
Well, I have to deliver it May 2018.
Why do you have to do it? What is this all part of the?
This is part of the
whole sequence of events.
Great question.
Great question, because I'm getting smarter about how nice I have to be, or not nice, or just fight for my film, frankly. And in their mind, the funders, with their kind of end of the year accountability to everything, want to see the product so that they can close the book on it, right? So the producer is telling me, oh, by this time you need this, and by this time you need that, and if you're going to come and do post here, we can only book the people for so long. So I'm.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah. So, but I've already found a way. I'm beginning to win the fights, and quite frankly, with Ozzy's encouragement and just his experience and reminding me the film is the thing. Of course, I believe that, but I'm understanding much clearly and why a director fights for their film, and when they need to fight for their film, and to stand up, and that's okay. I don't have to be, nasty about it, but maybe sometimes I will.
Yeah. Well, I always, tell people, tell a director, the film is yours. Yeah. It's your film.
Yeah.
And if it's not ready, it's like cooking something. If it's not ready, you're not going to serve it. People to eat and say, well, that doesn't taste well. Well, I didn't have time to cook it. She's cooking her film now. The film is shot, but it's not made. The film is made in the cutting room. And she should take as long as necessary
to get it out.
No deadlines.
Get it right, yeah.
No deadline.
Get it right.
It's not a date because of a Royal Command performance where the Queen is going to show up at the Odeon Leicester Square on such a date. You're going to have the answer print before then. It's not that. There is no deadline. There is no distribution date. There's no exhibition date. She should take as long as it needs. If the film needs another year to cut, I would say to Sheila, go. You should take a year.
Yeah.
You shouldn't deliver the film unless you are happy, because the film will, for the lifetime of the film.
Yeah.
If you've made a mistake, it's going to stay with that film for the duration of the film's life.
Yeah.
And if it's a mistake that was forced on you,
whereas if you'd given it more time,
you'll never forgive yourself
for
agreeing. Just because somebody said, well, you've got to deliver it on May the 10th.
Yeah. It really has been a film of a fight. And every time that, it's interesting, it's what you said about how you have great friends in success. And as soon as I have used the argument with one of the producers that we don't want to be sitting in the theater next year and know that on that scene, we should have done that, right? And he went, yeah, right, okay. So we're having a jib, done. So there were a lot of fights on this, a lot of, the difference I'm learning now between having a really creative producer and a numbers producer. And the numbers producer worrying you all the time about, oh, well, you didn't talk, da, 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 da.
The bean counters. We better call it a day. Sorry.
Oh,
that was one. No. It was wonderful.
Yeah,
and as always, whenever I talk to filmmakers, things and thank you. That was wonderful.
Jack. Who do you think you're gonna find in Bangkok or Bombay?
For when my baby smiles at me, my heart goes roaming to paradise. And when my baby smiles at me, there's such a wonderful light in his eyes, the kind of light that means just love, kind of love that brings sweet harmony. I sigh, I cry, it's just a glimpse of heaven when my baby smiles at me.
If I matter at all, first you talk to me.
Nothing happens when we